I am free from watching bad basketball. It's finally over. They had been eliminated after the Suns beat them by, I believe, 12. I don't know. They was down by like 25 at one point. It was garbage time. And the Nuggets went out there and they got walloped by the Spurs tonight. So it's finally over. I don't have to hear about this team doing shit in the play-in with a healthy AD and LeBron. It only took 79 games with the bad basketball can finally stop. I can finally dedicate my time to watching better teams instead of watching this garbage team play anymore. They have 3 more games, I believe, against the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Warriors. I'm not watching any of them. I don't have to, man. It's over. It's finally over. And now we can do a quick recap of our season, essentially. The Lakers had a very soft, very weak schedule to start the season out with that they should have won at least 14 games, it being the worst case scenario. But honestly, you should win 16, 17 games with the soft schedule they had. Because that's what the Warriors did to start the season. They had a soft schedule. They won like 15, 16 games. The Suns started off rough, losing a couple in a row, but then they turned around. So they had a soft schedule early, and they didn't take advantage of that soft schedule because they went out there and they blew multiple double-digit leads to the Thunder and other bad teams throughout the year. Whether it's, well, Memphis is not a bad team, but they did blow leads against Sacramento. They did lose to Indiana. They also lost Sacramento in overtime, triple overtime. They lost to the Clippers. Every time they played, they got swept. A couple of those times, they didn't even have, well, they didn't even have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard in any of those games, and they had AD and LeBron and Westbrook in some of those games. So they didn't beat the Clippers at all. There was multiple teams that they should have beat. They got into, grudge matches with the Rockets started season off with. And then, of course, they lost the Rockets in overtime about a month ago. Just so many L's that they shouldn't have picked up. All the double-digit leads they had throughout the season that they blew. That they would have won, they would be in a better position right now. But guess what? Folks should say it was a preseason. Oh yeah, they did start off 0-6 in the preseason, because that was a big concern. But folks just said it was a preseason. Don't worry about it. The guys will be fine. Whoop-de-whoop-whoop. And then they couldn't close games throughout the year. They didn't shoot threes well, even though they traded away their perimeter players. Even though they weren't the best, KCP, Kuzma, Caruso, even though they could have been streaky, they could defend. And the difference between this year and last year is philosophy of the team. The team was a defensive-oriented team last year, so even they would go on those scoring droughts, 3-4 minutes, and they don't score. They have a lead of 8 points. They only give up 5, maybe 6, and they still got a 2-3 point cushion, even though they didn't score for a couple of minutes. Now this time, with this team being that it's supposed to be an offensive-oriented team, even though they still have the same issues as last year's guys, not being consistent enough from the 3 and not being able to score enough. Well, now when they go on these droughts, instead of having a lead that's 2-3 points, now they're down 5, 12, sometimes 15, 20 points after going on these droughts. Do I think Frank Vogel is a great coach? No, because they had those scoring droughts last year and the championship year. But it doesn't surprise me that he struggled offensively with this personnel they put around with him, because he was never the best offensive mind when it came to the Lakers, and he was a defensive-oriented guy. They gave him a bunch of offensive personnel that's not even good enough consistently, and whoop-de-whoop, we're one of the worst offenses and one of the worst defense in the league. Isn't surprising at all, and they were a top defense the last couple of years, and they could be a middle-of-the-pack offense, maybe top 10 that was playing well. But there you have it. That's the team. The free agents we signed, most of them just aren't league caliber players anymore. DeAndre Jordan, Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, I don't even know who else, Wayne Ellington, guys that were collecting DNPs, and then guys that we signed off waivers or G League deals like Austin Reeves, like Wenyen Gabriel, like Stanley Johnson, guys that you can't have in a rotation, but if you're a good team, they're going to be buried on the bench, 11, 10, 12 man, and they're playing heavy minutes. And of course, they're not going to look good because they're not that good of a player to be playing heavy minutes. But there you have it. Same thing with Melo. You can apply the same thing with Melo. Yeah, he could still score in isolation. Yeah, he could get you a bucket with a bailout shot. But you having him playing, 15, 20 minutes, he's going to bleed those points out. I mentioned Melo. I also forgot to mention Malik Monk. Inconsistent, not the greatest passer. Same thing, man. Can't have him playing heavy minutes. You're going to bleed those points. Just awful all around roster construction. The blame goes on LeBron, AD, and Rob Pelinka, Genie, etc. Because there's no way Russ gets on this team without the approval of LeBron and AD. They're starting to talk about how LeBron wasn't in favor of that trade, and I can assume that Russ wasn't his first option, but he still got Russ in the team. So if he didn't want Russ in the team, Russ should not be on the team. They cheaped out on Caruso, elected to re-sign THT. He played awful, and he's another player that wouldn't be a playoff caliber player in this league, not at all. But he was awful. They gave him a decent amount of money. Kendrick Nunn didn't even play at all this year. But overall, just great offseason, man. Most of those signings fucking sucked. But out the way, ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay safe, and I'm out. Playoffs coming soon.